name is Scott Howard with Donaldson Hypro, and today we are reviewing best practices for collecting an oil sample prior to processing. There are 4 components that we need to make sure are flushed properly before we fill up the bottle and sending off to the lab or to process with your own equipment. Those 4 components are the lid and the bottle itself, the sample valve, and the components around the sample valve, whether it's the elbow before or the hosing or the piping. We need to make sure that any contamination built up in these components is flushed out before we fill up the bottle and cap it before analysis. So the first step, we have a bucket here, I have the hose. I'm going to agitate this line as I start oil flow. So you'll see me open and close, open and close. That's to get oil movement back and forth so that any contamination that's built up in this area will be removed. And then after you do that, you want to have a continuous flow of oil, and you do not stop this flow of oil until the entire process is completed. The next step, as these components are still flushing, remove the cap and keep the cap pointed down. If we turn it up while this process is occurring, we could have fallout from the area, the environment lands on the cap. You don't want to purse the cap in your lips because that can result in about a 200 parts per million increase in water content on a lab report. Don't put it in your pocket either because the lint, the contamination in your pocket can collect on the lid. So the lid is one area that we need to flush as well. The first thing we're going to do is fill up the bottle to about 1/3 to 1/2. Recap the bottle, agitate it. We're still allowing the flush to occur. Second time. Recap the bottle again, agitate it. We're trying to get this representative oil, this cleaner oil, to remove any contamination that's inside the bottle and the cap. One note is we want to make sure that we don't vigorously pour the oil into the bucket and take a chance of splashing back into the bottle. We want to make sure that we're methodical about this. Do this fill and flush 3 to 4 times maximum. Try to minimize your oil contamination around the area. And then the last time, we'll fill it up to the 90% mark. You'll see the top where the neck is. You want to leave a little air pocket at the top. So when you process it or the lab processes it, there's an air pocket that allows for agitation before processing. And at that point in time, when you cap it for the last time, is when you then shut off your oil flow. So this process is very cumbersome. It takes time. But remember, the particle count that we receive, the information that we put on the lab report after this process gives you 2 things. It's trendable data and it's actionable data. So when you look at the information on the lab report, it's believable so that you can then see if you have a contaminated system or not. And one other note, with a very clean system, it takes a lot more effort to prove that it's clean because it doesn't take much outside contamination to negatively affect your lab report. So as your system gets cleaner and cleaner, this process is more and more important to perform correctly. One thing I would recommend you do is if you want to test it yourself, you can always get a second bottle. And before you start any of this process, just fill this bottle up, set it aside and mark that one as pre-flushed bottle. Then go through this entire process of cleaning these 2 components and the cap and the bottle on the second bottle and compare the notes between the 2. You should see a difference. If you have any contamination build up at all in this system, you will see a difference in the lab reports between the 2 samples. Okay, that is best practices for collecting an oil sample prior to processing. Thank you for your time. And if you like this content and would like to see more technical information, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on LinkedIn. Thank you.